I mean, go ahead.
Okay. What if it's your child?
I mean, see, these hypotheticals, we're not like going anywhere with that. I just say these hypotheticals are very, very bad.
But
Before we do this, are you a big Andrew Tate supporter or?
No, I actually didn't know much about Tate until like 2 weeks ago, so I don't.
Oh, gotcha. Seems like half the internet's like that, and then the other half is like, this guy's been a huge dude. So.
So I'd seen him on like podcasts. I've heard of him, but I never watched his stuff. And then he blew up all of a sudden, so everyone constantly sends me shit. But I haven't watched most of it. The most recent thing I saw, I caught clips of, and so I tuned in for some portions of it. But it just seems like it's all over the internet everywhere. So shout outs to him. You know what I mean? Blowing up. But I have no personal positive or negative feelings about him.
Okay.
Yeah. So me on just outside watching the clips and then seeing some of the stuff. And then hearing the conversation that you guys were having, I was confused by some portions of it.
Yeah.
Because my experience when listening to Twitch streamers react to red pill dudes most of the time is I feel like Twitch streamers are sometimes so disconnected from the general populace's reality that they deny some basic, like, observable things that most people agree on. And when they deny it, it then gives credibility to the red pill dudes in ways that I think benefits them tremendously.
Yeah, this is one of my talking points verbatim. Yeah, not that you took it from me, but this is something that I say a lot. Yeah, people will say things like, "It's not true that women like men just because they're successful, or men like women just because they're young and pretty." It's like, okay, well, now you've lost the whole audience because everybody knows you're full of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, because we all know that to be true intrinsically. You know it from experience. You've seen it in your own life. You've heard women say they like men like that. So when you hear someone say such a ridiculous thing with so much confidence, and they fight tooth and nail, the whole audience is like, oh, this dude has no idea what he's talking about. First off, Twitch people don't even look like they're good with women. So already right there, they lose a bunch of credibility. But then they say that stuff. And then everyone's like, well, why would I listen to you about any dating advice? Because outside of your following, I don't imagine how you ever got laid. And I think that's a very sensible conclusion to come down to. Because
sure,
some
that
of the
is
stuff
true.
they say is ridiculous.
Yeah, that can be true. Although I will say, for some reason, people on the other side always seem to get like a bit of a pass on this. Like, it is incredibly rare that these like Giga Chad self-help gurus, like, you know, were these like normal, down on their luck, kind of ordinary men who all of a sudden through like red pill ideology, usually these guys started off like fucking loaded and shit. And they always have been almost, or like since they're like really early age, they were either super into athletics or something. But for some reason they always get a pass. It's like, I don't know if you call it like the Trump effect, but like somehow Trump became like the everyman, even though he's a fucking billionaire. Like, I never understood how Republicans saw him as like, oh, dude, he's just like me. But yeah, just a thing. Yeah.
I would imagine people probably interact with those types of people a lot more than they do with Twitch streamers.
I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I can honestly say, whether it be in the military, whether I was working in banks, whether I was just in the general population, encountering Twitch streamers or fucking neckbeards was not a common occurrence for me. Encountering dudes who probably didn't have the greatest view of women was far more common, or dudes who...
Well, not the greatest view of women, but like...
Oh, go ahead.
I fully admit I could just be wrong on this, right? Because I come from like a normal like Midwestern lifestyle. The way that the parties and shit work here, the way that like some of the shit that I've seen like at some of these clubs or whatever, that I even through like esports events that I get invited to, it feels like that fucking Rick Ross Kanye West song, like fucking ridiculous. Like the amount of like alcohol that these people will go through, like the crazy party shit, the insane girls, like that shit is, I'd never seen that in my normal day-to-day life. And I feel like my chances of intersecting with those types of like super wealthy party people would be about as high as intersecting with something like xQc, or I might even have a higher chance of seeing a gamer like that. But that might just be my background too. I was a fucking...
That'd probably be your background, because folks who go to university or go to schools or go to parties, they were your high school jocks. They were the people that you would see at your school, your day-to-day life. Or it would be the guys you meet at the gym oftentimes. Like, these are people that you may not necessarily have full-on conversations, but you will see around you. So they feel a lot more tangible, or they feel a lot more close. Or I generally feel like a lot of what the red pill dudes talk about or advocate for overlaps in terms of some of the ideas and the character traits, overlap with a lot of normal things you would see in your day-to-day life, whether it be like people who are leadership
That's true.
roles,
I would agree with that.
or things like that. So
for sure.
It feels much closer to what, like when they talk about what a man is and how a man should act, I've seen that many times in my life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You might not see the Andrew Tate, but people that have that type of ideology, you'll see it for sure a lot more commonly than a gamer should. I would agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Right. So because there's even that familiarity already right there's a little bit more credence given to these guys because they've already seen people that are like them have success with women or have success with dating or be desirable. So it seems much more reasonable off the top. When a scrawny dude who looks barely above 5'1" is telling me how to date and he's doing it with so much confidence and I don't believe him and he already loses credibility just based off how he looks or how he acts, I'm far more likely to believe someone like Andrew Tate who fits the prototype of what most people believe to be desirable than I would them. So you're already working 10 steps back.
Yeah, sure.
Yo, I'm getting slandered, man. Somebody's motherfucking chat fucking talking about me. Motherfucker, listen, I'm absolutely incredibly handsome. The girls, they actually cannot, they succumb to the desire, okay? That's just how it is.
Nice.
And then they take the money and they succumb even more, so please step back. I'm gonna mute again now.
Oh, are you talking to me or are you talking to someone in the chat?
Getting just unlike my chat. Don't worry about it.
Okay,
that's a streamer thing.
All right, what, did somebody say he was ugly and then he took that shit to heart? I ain't mad at that. Earlier, you said something. I think you said this, Destiny. You're like, checking a woman's phone. If you're already at the point of checking a woman's phone, why don't you just be single?
Yeah, fuck that.
You believe that?
Absolutely, 1,000,000,000,000%.
Why? What do you say?
If you're at the point where you're checking your partner's phone, you should just exit out of the relationship.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Okay, why?
Because anytime, so this might be an unpopular take, but I think that like most relationships where cheating has happened, I think the relationship is over. Because once you've gotten to a point where the partners don't trust each other, every single interaction you have is going to be plagued with that it's going to be like this toxic cloud that hangs over every single thing you do in the relationship that I think is just like, it's bad for both partners.
Okay. Do you concede that most people go into relationships or have relationships and have deep insecurities about themselves?
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes I do, yeah.
Okay, and I think it's very common for most people.
Yeah, it can be, yeah.
Just because they have these insecurities doesn't mean the relationship inherently fails. Plenty of people manage to work around these insecurities. They find ways to reassure their partners, whether it be like women who are uncomfortable about their looks. Sometimes you need to give them a few extra compliments every day of the week because of the fact that they have some insecurities about their looks. It doesn't mean that deep insecurity needs to inherently be fixed. Some folks live with that shit their whole lives. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, they do. But like
Okay.
the ways that you cope there is not by like snooping through your partner's shit.
Why not? Well, hold on. Let me rephrase.
Yeah, go for
I don't think you should be snooping through your partnership, but I think it's perfectly acceptable for some folks who have whatever insecurity is to say, I'd like to be able to go through your phone. And if the other person ain't got a problem with it, I don't see why it's a problem within a relationship.
So, because I don't think the event that you're playing is ever just that. It's never just that. If it was just that, then maybe that's okay. But what it is more likely going to be is it's going to be like, oh yeah, let me go through your phone. Oh hey, I saw that you liked this girl's picture on Facebook or Instagram. Do you know her? Can I look at your DM, see if you ever messaged her? Why did you like 2 of that girl's pictures? Yesterday you said that you went out with like Ronnie and the boys or whatever. I noticed that Fred got home early. Did the rest of you guys stay out? Who all was at that get together? That one girl that was there, haven't you liked when like it's going to be shit like that. And when shit gets to in my opinion, the types of people that check phones are the same types of people that will ask these types of questions. That shit is like living fucking hell. I just don't think it's worth it. But I mean, maybe for some people they do. But if it was literally just like every night, like I think me and Melina have a policy where we can look at each other's shit because we don't care. But if somebody got to the point where they were starting to ask questions like that all the time, and I feel like that usually goes along with phone checking, that relationship is toast. Those things never work out long term.
Yeah, I think most folks would agree that if you're constantly having to hound your person because you don't trust them, then you got a more sizable issue. But I don't think asking to see someone else's phones is uncommon, nor do I think it's inherently an issue. Well, some people subscribe to the whole idea is like, well, if I don't trust my partner, I should never be with them. And so I'm going to just fully trust them and never question anything, which if that's your camp, that's fine. I'm personally more in that camp than anything else. But I also understand other people like, yo, I want to look through your phone. And the person's like, sure, I got nothing to hide. I don't think that's an inherent character flaw or some big issue. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm evaluating it personally, and I think that would actually be a deal breaker for me. But for most people, I guess I could see it.
Cool.
I think I would cheat on principle if somebody did that to me.
Me too.
I think if somebody's like, I'm gonna check your phone. Like, hold on, you think I wouldn't be able to hide messages from you? Well, now I'm gonna buy a second phone. Now I'm gonna get a second phone plan. I'm gonna find a girl I don't even like, and I'm gonna fuck her and lie to you about it just on the principle of you checking my phone. Fuck you, bitch. But I don't know.
Hey, that's red pill and base.
Sure. Sorry. Hold on. No, I don't mean that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. So like, if it was the case that like somebody was feeling insecure for whatever fucking reason, and they asked a question like this, like, you know, a couple times, that I don't think that's not horrible. My thing is that, though, when I hear about a behavior like that, more often than not, like 98% of the time, that's going to be coupled with a whole bunch of other behaviors where it's like, fuck that shit. But yeah, but insofar as what you're saying, yeah, I think it's okay.
I would wager that almost every red pill guy would say it's pretty unsightly to constantly be jealous about your girl and questioning everything because it makes you look insecure and pathetic. That would be the red pill answer to that stuff. So I think they would agree with you on that.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Although, yeah, a lot of this is gonna depend on how it comes off as well, right? But yeah.
Sure. Let's see here. Okay, this part, now, I don't know what consensus they came into because I only saw the 3-minute clip, but the whole a man's responsibility to take care of his woman, and the whole, like, somebody breaks into the house, and I think somebody said something along the lines of, like, man, I'm going to stay upstairs because I think that's the most secure course of action. I just want to make sure I understand. Nobody here is saying that they don't have a responsibility to protect their partner. They're just saying, I wouldn't go down and attack the person. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the conversation got off. It was like, this was xQc was answering like a different question of like strategy versus like what is like the obligation in a relationship, right?
Okay. Let me just ask. I didn't really understand how the conversation went beyond that, but like, if you got your family and your kids and your dog at home, do you just like not put yourself in danger in that regards? You know what I mean? Like, do you be like, all right, kids, let's, you try to run and get the kids and hide? Or is it one of those situations where
you if you're a responsible person who is an adult, then the goal is always maximize survival, right?
Yes. Also, listen, people, the point that Trent was able to make, that I made, that we're able to kind of like, we're all agreeing on, but it seemed like nobody wanted to say that we agree, even though we did agree, is that technique is irrelevant as long as survival is maximized. Yeah, that's all that matters.
Okay. All right. So you wouldn't say you wouldn't want to defend your girl. You don't feel like you have an obligation. You're just saying what I would choose to do is what gives us the best chance at survival.
Like if you hear like a noise in the backyard, it's not manly to throw your covers off, run outside naked with a fucking hatchet and be like, I'm here to defend my wife's honor or some shit, right? Yeah.
Okay. But let me ask you, if there's a gun pointed, okay, hypothetical, all right, this is complete hypothetical. I know we all love that shit here. Okay. Hypothetical, there's a gun pointed at the both of you. All right. Do you feel like it's your responsibility to get in front of your girl before the gun goes off?
No.
No?
I mean,
okay. What if it's your child?
I mean, see, these hypotheticals, we're not gonna like going anywhere with that. I just say these hypotheticals are very, very bad.
But you understand the principle. I'm not talking about the technical aspect. You understand the principle of it. It's like
by principle, yes. By technicality, I feel like if there could be choices to make that are better, you could make a better choice, right? What type of gun it is, whatever it is, what kind of angle it is, like.
I think this is a question about like just the principle of it, right?
This is just the principle. If I went to anybody,
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. God bless you. That was the only word I had. I thought we'd gotten so far off the deep end that we wouldn't say yes to that. Because I think
instincts kick in as well. Like
I just want you to understand like how it comes across to everyone in the world when they hear you even hesitate. Because if you ask most men on the street, vast majority of people, and you said, listen, there's a gun pointed at you and your girl, they would all jump and immediately say yes. Especially if it was their kids, they wouldn't even think about it. So when they even hear you hesitate, all of a sudden they look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah, even if they themselves wouldn't do it, they'd still answer yes to it, of course, right?
Oh yeah, because they want a black and white answer. But no. What I'm saying is that like it's about. I didn't like the. I'm very bad at hypotheticals. It's like. If there's a better option, like push him to the side or something like that, than to fucking die for no reason, I'd better explore that option. But if we're talking about the essence of it, then if there's no like
okay.
Yeah,
and I think that's what the question was trying to get into at the end of the day, and I think that's why so many people had like an adverse reaction to the clip itself, because I think their base instinct, everybody knows this. They know it innately. They haven't discussed it outwardly, but everyone knows. If your child is like in danger, mortally in danger, they expect you to do everything, even if it's not logical, even if it's not the most optimal thing. They expect you to act immediately. So when they even hear you hesitate, they start to question your whole paradigm, because like, why would I want to be like this guy? This guy wouldn't sacrifice his life for his child. You know what I'm saying? That's how they would hear your hesitation. That's
I mean, yeah, it's just. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I mean, I have literally empirical evidence of things that I've done in the past. You know, that I don't want to talk about. That, yeah, I mean, when it did come down to it, empirically, like anecdotally, whatever you fuck, yeah, I kick in, I do the right thing. It's not like a, right. I just didn't want to be like a, well, I don't know. To me, it was, I didn't want to be obtuse about it, right? But to me, it was, I don't know. I've had a lot of like housing problem the past year, and just hearing the like going downstairs. If somebody's there, it just kind of like, I was like, fuck this shit. I fucking hate that shit so much, man.
Yeah. I can understand that. A home invasion is a terrifying thing. So it's not like I'm not sympathetic in that regards. And I understand people freeze and make mistakes. I think men understand generally, at least in the general population, they understand like what their role is to some degree. Most guys kind of innately understand that they're supposed to do that. They want to do it because they feel like they're supposed to. And we've also been conditioned to believe, and I think it's also true, that women would find us very unattractive if we didn't answer yes to that question. Most women would hear that we wouldn't put ourselves in danger like that and be innately turned off by it. And I don't think that's completely crazy, because I think women expect certain things of their men. So when we're talking in a dating context of what men are supposed to do, Andrew Tate's philosophy sounds far more appealing, because it speaks to what women are going to feel when they hear what you're saying, and it also speaks to what men already know to be true about the world. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I don't listen. I'm just saying this stuff out of love, because you know, at the end of the day, we're both from Quebec. I can't have you out here making us look bad on these platforms, because there's not many of us. Okay, so
nah. It's good. It just it didn't like hit home. I'm not gonna be like victim Andy or whatever. I don't want to act too hard on it. It's just that like. Just overall, like, just I don't like this whole like fucking like home invasion shit. Okay, and like this year's been like a disaster for us. Like we moved, I think, like 16 times, something like that. This year getting swatted like fucking like 8 times a week, something like that. It like, dude, like just the thought of having fucking SWAT downstairs with fucking, you know, fucking, dude, like, it's just fucking. Sometimes I'd like to be more analytical about it, but the essence of in a purely protective, do the right thing and step up. Yeah, of course, that's like automatic, you know.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Listen, I've had a break into my home, so I understand. Like, it really fuck with your head. So maybe if it was a weird question for you, I get it.
Yeah, I'm not like I said, like I don't give a fuck about like going deep into it. It's just like yeah.
You feel like some people, I don't know, I heard both you and Destiny say this. You guys said something along the lines of like, people will discount your opinions either because you're a streamer or whatever. And they say like, oh, your dating device doesn't matter because you guys are famous streamers. Is that correct?
What, the dating device is what?
They disregard your dating advice sometimes because they say, oh, you're just a streamer and you're like really popular or whatever.
Or people will do it like.
I mean, it depends on what it's about. Like, I'm not the biggest guru of dating. I'm not a fucking nobody dating either. Like, I know what type of behavior girls don't like. What makes you look like a little bitch ass and shit like that. And people, yeah. Especially on those, because a lot of people were saying shit like oh, soy this, soy that, whatever. And I display my relationships like a lot of confidence. And security, and I make my partner feel comfortable in those areas that they never have to fucking blink the eye, and I think I'm proud of that. Like, they're not gonna be I don't have to prove some random guy on the internet that, oh, I'm right about this, dude. Look, I'm so like, fuck off with that shit.
Yeah. I think this is something that I think some folks fail to realize. You specifically, I mean, when it comes to dating advice, especially when you don't have anything, who you take advice to really matters to the people, because they want to know they can identify. Because for some folks, like, life is just a lot of rejections. Like, they go up to women, it's constant no's, they have zero luck. Some of them are going to feel like they're going to be virgins forever. And so when they see you, right, and I don't know, it seems like you're fairly tall. Like, I saw something like 6'2", 6'3", or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Fairly decent looking. Even if you say like, well, I didn't always used to be rich. Well, I was like, you were always tall though, right? So people in their head, they can't feel like they can relate to you because you live with a certain set of parameters that already give you a huge advantage. And people can say victim Olympics. They can say, oh, man, we all got our issues. But if you don't start from even remotely similar points, it's very hard for people to take your advice seriously. And so it's like someone who's like growing up middle class can't completely understand as somebody who grew up in abject poverty in fucking Congo, for example. And sometimes the chasm can feel that different between someone who's 6'3" and relatively good looking and someone who's like a 5'1" troglodyte. Okay, it's just a different reality.
That can be true, but at some point, like, people have to, like, if you victim yourself too hard, like, no advice will ever work for you. Like, I think that's been one of the big problems with, like, the left messaging, in terms of, like, talking about black people, talking about poor people, talking about any minority group. Like, oh, well, you're fucked. Like, oh, this guy didn't do it. It's because, you know, they discriminated against him, or it's because she's a woman that, you know, she got blah blah blah. Like, nothing is ever the fault. I think you have to be careful of that, and people do that, ironically enough, in right-leaning, like, dating circles too. Like, oh, not at least 6 feet tall, you're fucking hopeless. Like, oh, you know,
right.
Not making a 6-figure income, get ready to date a fucking, like, wildebeest. Like, you're fucked, right? Like, I think people will do the same thing over there, where they'll blame everything else, and yeah.
I mean, it also depends on your background, especially if you hang out with people. And I think personal experience and seeing it is, like, very impactful. Like even when I was a kid, like, I would hang out with these guys that looked like absolute fucking douchebag moron, like, actually just look stupid and short, and they would you know, they would pull it off super hard, you know. So it was like, I don't know, to me that was very impactful, like, just seeing that.
I understand what you guys are saying, and I do agree that somebody just sitting there be like, well, if you're not 6 foot tall, it's over for you. Like, obviously it's not. But when the other side doesn't take time to acknowledge, like, yeah, you know what, my height is a big advantage, then it just seems a bit disingenuous. That's all. That's what it really comes down to. And I agree that their extreme messaging and self-defeatist attitude, like, it'll never happen to me, I'm 5'1", doesn't help them in any way, shape, or form. But when you don't acknowledge the chasm of the difference that you have as an experience between them and you, or you like, you know what, I don't know what it's like to be 5'1", but this is what works for me. If you don't acknowledge it, it becomes increasingly difficult. Because I've had people try to relate to me their experience. I'm like, bro, I didn't experience anything remotely like that when I was trying to approach women. So what's the difference between me and you? Is it my skills, or is it just you're a different starting point? And I don't know. To me, it's important to acknowledge those things. Because I know my brother is incredibly handsome. Okay. And when we would go out to clubs, he would give me dating advice, and it was the worst dating advice. Because I realized he didn't have to work. He was going to leave the club every night with phone numbers or a woman, and it wasn't going to be any effort for him. Dude was substantially better looking, taller than me, and I was, you know, I had my own issues. And so I would get annoyed every time he tried to give me advice. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think I understand. I feel the same way. Destiny, you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean,
about what?
Like I say, the name that we do not speak of, okay? But I feel like this sometimes happen with some of the advice, and you shouldn't be devalidated for it, right? But sometimes the oversimplification, the oversimplification of the dynamics around, like, looks and whatever,
yeah,
right? That, like, very handsome people make it. Yeah, it can be. How would you say, like, alienating or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, even that lack of understanding is, I think, what leads to a lot of incel-related issues. You know, I think the one step removed from an incel is just like a fucking lonely virgin who, you know, is just unhappy about his circumstances. Doesn't necessarily mean he hates women or has a complete, like, extreme view, but he's just one step removed from being that. You get me? In the sense that there's the same underlying ingredients that lead to that kind of extremism. And so when they hear people can be completely unempathetic or just lacking in zero understanding of what the male struggle looks like in regards to dating, or how tough it can be for dudes who are really ugly and how invisible they are, then to me, I get annoyed by it a little bit, because I'm like, you have no idea how much of a struggle it is for some of these people. And when you act tone deaf to it, it makes them go to more radical voices who seem to empathize with them, i.e. incel-like communities, right? Because they understand that, like, repulsion and that anger and all that stuff. So even though I don't agree with the mantra or the ideology, I understand the circumstances that lead people to be radicalized like that. And so I just think generally society doesn't understand what it's like to be a really, really ugly dude. And nor do they really give a fuck. And I don't think they try to.
Yeah, that's true. I think I mention this stuff all the time.
Yeah. Let's see here.
I think you can literally apply. I think, maybe if I'm wrong, I don't like making well, I make comparisons like this sometimes that are kind of bad, but I feel like this one is kind of good. I think this applies almost 1-to-1. Is if I sat there, right, and I preached to broke people, and I said, "Yo, guys, want to get rich, man? Just do like me, man. Just follow your dreams." Right?
Yeah. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps, kind of thing.
Or like just be yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's disingenuous, and it comes from a bad place overall. I think it's just kind of odd.
Yeah. I was gonna say, let's see here. I wrote this down earlier. If I don't take notes, I feel like my brain doesn't work. Okay, yes, this was it. Oh, I think I haven't watched the whole Greek stream. I know there was a lot of talk about that. I guess he must have adopted the red pill recently or some of the sorts.
The titty pill, the Tate one.
The titty pill? I don't know what pill he took.
The Tate pill, I think.
Tate, sorry.
The titty pill. All right, I like the titty pill. But I think what ends up happening is a lot of dudes who kind of find this information almost are like born again Christians or like newfound vegans. They become a bit obnoxious about it just because they found like they've discovered the truth and they're like, I've been living my whole life without it and this has made me slightly feel better. I need to tell everyone else about it. So they're really loud, but even though they haven't internalized a lot of these ideas, they just repeat it verbatim thinking they know it because they can repeat the other people's talking points, but they haven't really assimilated the whole ideology. And so that's why you can hear folks sometimes be loud and obnoxious about it without making too much sense. But I do think that the stuff that they're listening to does sound more coherent. Hence, when you hear Tate speak about it, it sounds a lot more efficient, much more.
I think the problem with those people is what happens is like somebody like Tate has a fully coherent, like all encapsulating ideology to explain the whys, the whats, and the hows of what he does. But for people that are fans of his, they end up just biting like some top level piece of advice he gives, but they don't really understand it. So they end up like spouting a bunch of like dumb shit. They come off as like overly egotistical. It just it almost becomes like a caricature of why people even do this to me, where people will run around and be like ultra debate bros. They'll be assholes. They'll be like, oh, well, Destiny's mean to people, so I'm going to be mean to everybody, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, people will do shit like that. And it's like, okay, well, you're kind of missing the point in some of this, you know? But yeah.
Yeah. And what little I have seen of Tate, I don't think it was that extreme, at least in the little that I have seen of him. Even when I saw, like, I briefly watched this interview that he did with this woman who's like a hyper feminist and very charismatic from the little clips that I did see.
Yep.
Knew how to talk to her, knew how to deconstruct her stuff without being super obnoxious about it. And that comes down to a little bit of that smoothness where you can still have an ideology that people find repulsive. But if you're charismatic enough, you can really get your points across and start to make people meet you halfway. And so it's important, even if you vehemently disagree with somebody's stance, that you see how good they are at whatever it is they do, because if you're not able to acknowledge that, then other folks are going to think you're disingenuous, because he is good at what he does, if you're being honest.
Yeah, of course.
And so at least that's what little I gathered from watching him. I wanted to know, because I didn't have the discussion with him or the debate. X, did you prepare at all before you talked to him?
No, of course not. I just woken up from a fucking coma sleep, man. I mean, he wasn't prepared either, but I mean, bro,
remember, he's always prepared though, right?
Yes, because
they'd be like doing like a random convo with me about like fucking anything political or like the coronavirus vaccine. Like, I'm gonna be good to go on that in a moment's notice. So yeah, and he does like this shit all the time on his fucking YouTube and TikTok. So he's always like ready to go, you know.
What are some things that either of you like really disagreed with him on?
I mean,
go ahead.
Didn't really disagree with anybody or anything. He just kind of.
Fence sitting Andy.
You don't disagree with anything, Destiny?
Well, no. So my issue is I don't know what prescriptions he's made. I don't know what he tells people to do. And the problem was that in his conversation with X was like the aggressor. So there was never really a point where Tate was saying like, I think everybody should do this. And insofar as he's not telling everybody to do a thing, there's nothing really I disagree with. Like, it seemed like most of his observations, which is going to be true of like all red pill people, their observations are usually correct, like pretty correct, you know, with a couple disagreements. The issues that I usually have is when they're telling people like, if you don't do this, you're going to be a fucking loser, or you have to do this or else it's all over. But he never got to a point in X's convo where he was saying something like that. So there wasn't really much for me to disagree with.
Can I ask you, do you think there's any alternative to these guys? Do you feel like there's any like better prescription that people can have for these dudes, or is there anybody offering anything?
I try to, but it just depends on the type of conversation I'm gonna have. The problem is that
hey, Destiny, you know what, man? Listen, I consider you one of the few content creators I actually think of as a friend, and I say this with all love in the world. If young men were looking for guidance in the world, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't recommend you, but I feel like most people wouldn't think you as a prototypical person to recommend to
I think
folks
that's probably
for mentorship.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case because of like what I'm generally known for. But like I get a ton of email from people saying otherwise. And I think there is a ton of advice that I give relating to life related things that I would say is infinitely better than 99% of the people on the internet that were either born with a silver spoon or they got lucky through some other bullshit and they're here to tell you how to do their shit or whatever. I think that when it comes to life related stuff, I'll give like the best advice of anybody that I know for most of it. But most of the time I'm doing like political debate or screeching at people about like coronavirus vaccines, so I don't get into that much.
I agree. I think the issue that you run into is I don't think that people envy the life that you live. And the reason why I say that is generally dudes emulate things that they see as being desirable. In that, let's say if they're looking for somebody who lifts, they want to see somebody who has a physique that they admire before taking their advice. So even though your advice is scientifically backed with all the studies in the world and intellectually speaking, I can understand why it's the best. Based off how you live, a lot of folks don't desire that life. Andrew Tate has done a great job just in marketing himself to seem like he's leading a life that folks think is desirable. Not in every aspect.
Yeah, I mean, like,
but
and I can understand that. There's a lot of work that has to go in there too, though, because like the issue is that like. It's very weird because like in some ways society is like super left pilled, but in other ways society is like super red pilled. Like Andrew Tate doesn't have to do any work to like market his lifestyle because people already think they want that lifestyle because they've been told for a long time, even though it seems like the culture is another way, men have been told that this is the lifestyle you want, or it feels like it's the lifestyle we want. But like I know this personally, like there are so many guys and girls, for instance, that like have a lot of money and that look like fucking supermodels that are miserable fucks. And I don't know, I can't show that as a study, but like there are a lot, like to become a happy person who's like content with life is so far beyond like having a sculpted body or looking good or even having money or even like dating like a person that looks like at a certain level of attractiveness. But that's a really hard thing to convey to a normal person, much the same way that like I don't usually waste my time saying this on stream because I used to be fucked financially, and it's really hard sometimes to hear like money doesn't buy happiness, especially when you're broke as fuck, because for a lot of people it feels like it will. But once you've like covered your bills, money does not buy happiness. There's plenty of like rich miserable fucks. There are plenty of like upper middle class miserable fucking millennials that are working tech jobs, that got good degrees, that are working in big cities, that are lonely as fuck. They have no fucking friends except for the ones that they see online on fucking Discord. They have no fucking hobbies except for whatever the next league patch is, and they have no way to go out and meet girls because their coworkers are 95% miserable millennial men just like they are. But like people will still think that those are the lifestyles they need. Like I need the money, I need the body, whatever. That shit doesn't make anybody happy. But I mean, it's an uphill battle for me to convince somebody of that, because to truly really know that, you kind of have to get it to see that it didn't actually solve your problem. So yeah,
you're damn right. I had to be a man whore to know I didn't want to be a man whore.
Yeah.
Okay, and to tell somebody who's never had my roommate's a perfect example. He's like 3 years younger than me, and so when he started living with me, I was already at the height of my man whoring, right? But he never experienced it, right? So now he's gotten his first place living in here. We've been living in the same spot for I think like 8 years now, and I told him, I'm like, bro, you're gonna get sick of this real fast. He's like, bro, I said, all right, go do it. And sure enough, 2 years later, he realized like he didn't want that kind of lifestyle, but he had to go through it. It's hard for somebody who hasn't done it to believe that.
Yeah.
It's easy on the other side to say. And so as long as people are on the other side, and most people are, they're going to see Andrew Tate and they'd be like, that's what I need to hear.
Yeah.
And I also say this, and I only saw this briefly, but I saw he mentioned a lot of talks. This is one thing that really surprises me for some reason, and I don't know if it should, but a lot of these red pill dudes talk about spirituality and religion, which I think is hilarious considering like most of the hedonistic behavior that they engage in is like the antithesis of these religious doctrines. But I notice there's a huge overlap between that. So I'm realizing that they are now no longer just appealing to lonely single dudes. They're also starting to reach guys who are married and who are in relationships and reaching their ears as well. And so there's an evolution of this whole thing that I think has been interesting to watch.
There's, I don't like to call it religious. I like to call it spiritual, because I think that what the problem that these guys are speaking to, and it is true, is I think there's this, I'm gonna get a little political. There's kind of this underlying buy-in to quote unquote liberalism or capitalism that to some extent technological
Simon
advancements
says.
and things that we can buy are definitely going to make us really happy. That's kind of been an implicit buy-in to liberal society or capitalist society for a long time. And I think to some extent that was true for a while. Like cars probably helped us become happier. Computers probably helped us become happier. But at some point, I think we started to hit diminishing returns on that. And now you're in this like hyper liberal society where, you know, every 6 months, the new bestest phone is out. Every 6 seconds, the new bestest porn video is out. Every, you know, 6 weeks, there's like a new computer, there's a new gadget, there's a new thing.
Porn fell off super hard. You can continue.
There's all these issues that like aren't being solved by technology anymore. So if it's not going to be material things that are going to fix these problems, it must be spiritual. So a lot of people are doing this thing where they talk about religion, but none of these guys know fucking anything about Christianity or anything. But like it's like the thing. If it's not going to be the materialist shit that helps us, it's going to be like the spiritual battle. That's what we have to do next, because liberalism didn't answer our questions. So maybe God or some kind of spiritual enlightenment will.
Yeah, because I think there's a certain sense of loneliness that you described that a lot of people feel. But I think from them, it's a bit of a grift in that if they were being as thorough as they claim to be about stuff, all the truth and logic, they would recognize the ways in which their like worldview doesn't align with the religions that they espouse. Even though you claim it's spirituality, unfortunately, they name drop religion specifically and cater to them. They'll mention Islam a lot, and they'll be like, "Fucking Islam's fantastic," and you know they have multiple wives. And it's like, well, they have a bunch of other tenets that you don't apply to whatsoever. In fact, you would be considered one of the worst Muslims if you were one. And so that is the grift that I've noticed a lot recently. And there's a lot of married men who are like tuning into this stuff because I think they feel to some degree their marriage is a little bit unfulfilling. And so they think of like ways in which they can incorporate this kind of thing to like rein in their woman or do this other stuff. And that's been the weird part for me that I've been trying to wrap my head around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime you can wrap shit up, look at all the people that are kind of supporting Russia, because Russia says kind of like similar things, that like this East-West divide where the West is like this soulless world that's lost God and blah, blah, blah. And then people just kind of slot God in, or I call it spirituality. They don't want to call it spirituality because they don't want to seem they're like Brittany Simon, like, oh, I'm a spiritual person. They want to see like, you know, Islam and Christianity are more like, wow, that's some real serious spiritual shit. But they're just looking to fill a hole, I think.
My question, you know, I was thinking, I was wondering, is it a grift from these people where they're intentionally being obtuse and they're just doing this to get a new audience? Or is it the fact that a lot of these religions enforce very traditionally conservative values in regards to men can do whatever they want, women can't? So these kind of ideologies do overlap to some degree. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of the ideologies get you like 85% of the way there to like the super trad stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like it's easy to like hop on the back of like Christianity, right? Because Christianity is probably going to be closer to whatever ideal spiritual moral world you want than like, you know, like the blue-haired screeching people on Twitter or the news, right?
Right. So I think going forward, we're going to see a lot more of this red pill stuff. We're going to see a lot more coaches. It's going to be more prominent. I think it's going to be the version of like the anti-establishment of the dating world, and people. I think it's going to be probably the most popular wave in the next little while in terms of dating fads. You know, like we had the Me Too movement for a long time and like all this like consent talk and all this stuff. This red pill thing is about to eclipse all that, is what I believe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. I think that like I've mentioned this for a long time, like the left fucked up in like kind of casting aside young white men. And like constantly like castigating and shitting on and saying they're evil and blah blah blah, and other people have kind of stepped in to pick up the slack. Like I would say the past generation, I say generation, but on the internet generation like 5 years, like would be like the Jordan Petersons, and that's probably just going to get more and more extreme. Like the next wave will be like the uber ultimate like red pillars and shit.
Yeah, I can't wait to have a girlfriend and be allowed to cheat on her when she can't do anything else. I think this new
for a lot of these guys, that's literally like there's a red pill guy that I talked to, Alex Vicheka or something, and then I think Andrew Tate is the same way. And I think, did Sneeko say this too, or Sneeko say this?
Where he can go out and fuck around, but they can't.
Yeah, where the guys say like, my relationship is open, I can go around and fuck around, but my girl's not allowed to go fuck around.
Yeah. That shit's becoming normal, and you know. Hey man, if the girls are cool with it, I ain't got a problem with it. Live your life.
Yeah, but wait, Disney. I thought you didn't go against like some of these takes when they don't prescribe to other people.
Well, these guys all do prescribe to other people. These guys all tell people this is how they should live their life or how they should manage their women.
Oh, okay.
The Andrew Tate guy probably does too. I just didn't see him do it in your combo. That's the only reason I didn't mention it in your combo.
Okay.
If they don't do it explicitly, they do it implicitly.
Yeah,
that's the
basically.
lifeline they've been selling and encouraging people.
Yeah.
And they dog whistle sometimes because if you call them on it, they know they can't defend it logically speaking a lot of the times, and so they'll try to like dog whistle it. But 100%, that is what they're pushing to guys, which is like their ultimate hedonistic fantasy.
Yeah, Tate did it a couple times implicitly to you, X, where he didn't tell you to do it, but he made this comment. I think it was twice where he said, you tell your girl to do this, I'll tell my girl to do this, and we'll see who does better. Like, he said that a few times, and that's kind of like a challenge of like, well, my worldview is better than yours. He did that a couple times towards the end, yeah.
And if we're being honest, that message is very appealing to people. What kind of guy wouldn't like to be able to fuck other women and have their cake and also be able to eat it too? And so if these guys have done a great job of convincing them that not only can they do it, but they should be doing it because they're men, right? And so that's been the fascinating thing to watch how common that stuff has become. And I'm not necessarily for or against it. I don't think people have to live by lifestyle, nor they should. And if the women are fine with it, like, I don't really give a fuck because I know a lot of women who are cool with that kind of arrangement.
That are cool?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you were talking about like ugly dudes, whatever, a motherfucker, right? It's already hard to get one girl. I mean, these guys, I don't know why they're taking advice to how to get two girls. They can't even get one. So I mean,
That is true, yeah.
Like, I think that this is not like a wide scale application, but yeah, it's still true though. You're still right about it.
Yeah, I mean, no, for them, the way that they're selling it, they're calling it the final boss. They're like, bruv, we know you can't even get past level 1, but if you get to level 10, let me tell you what the prize is for clearing this. You get what I'm saying? That's how they're pushing it to folks. And so for dudes to buy in, they're very excited by the prospect of being able to live that lifestyle. And who hasn't thought about that? I mean, most of the anime that we watch involves some kind of harem tag or an MC who fucking has 30 women who are constantly chasing after him. It is, whether we like to admit it or not, the fantasy of a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. That's why I've always said this, that like, as much as people don't like to say it, like, for men, like, the ultimate validation in life is like the approval that you get from a woman. So if you can have like 2 women at once, you're like literally like the most amazing guy in the world because you've gotten that much more validation than the average person.
Yeah. Even though we think of like all the, people we consider giga chads or, the movie actors that we thought were so cool. It's like the dudes who had like women constantly chasing after him and were probably fucking women left, right, and center. We consider them bosses. Like, at the end of the day, our society has always glorified players and dudes who had multiple women. So I think it's so hilarious that today everyone's like, oh my God, it's fucking disgusting. Like, you guys are capping so hard. That's not true. You don't really believe that. And if you do, you're part of the minority because vast majority of society has always glorified men who were man whores in a way, or were able to get lots of women and do it constantly. And so I just think it's interesting that when I watch these online debates happen, sometimes I'll see people and they're talking like, oh, this guy's disgusting. What kind of guy wants it? I'm like, bro, you don't have to brown nose because I think you're lying a little bit. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it's like the new era of like the Redpill, whatever. I worded it differently. I think this era is it's the era of fake giga chads, where it's like people who disguise insecurity and just all these weird traits into being like a chad, which is like the opposite of what a chad is. Like
I think that, the only issue is like the guys preaching it won't be insecure, but everybody that picks up on it usually is. Yeah.
And it'd be like, yeah, I'm being such a giga chad. Like, my girl can't do this, my girl can't do that. It's like, okay, dude. Yeah, man.
Do you guys think there's anything wrong with prescribing the idea that people should have multiple partners? Like, men should have multiple partners, women shouldn't?
I would say, personally, I think that monogamous relationships are hard enough. I don't think that people should generally... I wouldn't prescribe multiple relationships to people, no.
Okay, you wouldn't generally do it. It doesn't seem like a strong sense. How about you elaborate and give us a harder one?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't recommend it ever to people, no. As somebody that does them, I don't recommend it. Most people I think there's a natural level of jealousy that most people carry when it comes to their partners. And I think most people, a lot of people have stories of trying threesomes and they think it'll be okay and they end up emotionally destroyed at the end of it. Like, multiple partner stuff is not open relationships, polyamorous shit. That's not for like 99% of people. The chances are, if you even have to ask, it's not for you. So I don't recommend it ever.
But you don't think that by normalizing it the way that these guys are doing, if I'm taking their stance and their point of view, but basically they want to normalize it? Because I think Tate said that during the interview. He's like, listen, I think he said something like along the lines like, women are malleable. And because they're malleable,
I don't think
you have a duty to shape and mold them.
Yeah, I don't think they're normalizing anything. None of these guys is like, there aren't people listening to Andrew Tate that are all of a sudden like pulling like 2 or 3 girls. I don't believe it.
You know what I'm going to tell you, and this is something I noticed when I was watching some of the Kevin Samuels stuff unfold. There was 100% a bunch of women who talked themselves into being like, you know what, I want a high value man, so I'll let him fuck some other woman if he takes care of me. 100%. I saw a lot of women begin to change their mindset on that stuff as they were listening to these streams.
Maybe some of the ones listening, but like that's hold on, let me.
Okay, no, wait. I was thinking about this.
Wait, hold on. Let me just respond to this real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to say this in a way that isn't really mean. If you're the kind of person that has to listen to Andrew Tate for advice on dating, you're never going to be the kind of guy that's fucking 2 or 3 girls at the same time long term.
Okay, somebody said it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
why
what
is
I mean.
that?
Because if you are, you're not going to Andrew Tate for dating advice. You're already doing it. You're just like, there aren't these people that are like these nervous geeky guys or whatever, and then they listen to enough of these like ultra giga chad red pill podcasts, and all of a sudden now they're like fucking 2 or 3 girls in the long term. No fucking shit. There probably are some. I mean, I say something technically I do this, right? And there are other people that do this, but it's not because we're like watching podcasts to figure out like, I don't know how to talk to women, I don't know how to get women to be okay with this. Like, it's people that are already gonna be in those like really high value positions anyway. Either people that have a lot of clout, are like financially successful, or along in their career. Like, that's how it's always gonna be. Like, you're not gonna be able to learn something from Andrew Tate if you're the kind of guy to go to a podcast for help for dating, and now all of a sudden in a year or 2 or 5, now you're like fucking like 2 or 3 girls on the regular. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. But I mean, that's just.
But that's exactly why you're going to lose to Andrew Tate.
Oh, because he's selling him that dream of being able to do it.
I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if they can, but I will tell you that most of the red pill dudes that I ended up doing research on, vast majority of them will sell you the same story themselves. I was an ugly nerd, anime guy, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, they always say shit like this, but it's always like half true. Like fucking Hassan does this shit where he's like, oh yeah, I used to be this fat loser kid and company. Bro, your family, you have like an international fucking family. You're like riding horses and suits when you're like 7 years old. Bro, you've always had like a decent life. Like, get the fuck out of here with this like, oh, I was a huge fucking loser bullshit. Like 99% of the time, I'll tell you guys, 99% of the time you hear shit like that from people, it's bullshit. Like, if you don't know somebody's background, if you don't have fucking videos of them like doing embarrassing shit, being poor or whatever, then I wouldn't believe any of that shit. If people can make up shit about their background, they'll do it. I've seen it happen a million fucking times. Now, I understand you're saying that maybe that doesn't matter. Like, people will lie about it anyway, and you have to contend with that. But like, I'm just saying, like, I never believe, unless somebody's got videos or some shit they want to show me, I don't believe shit like that.
I also feel like some of this advice, it kind of like, I had to use that word again. Empirically, I feel like if you were to do some of this shit, and you were to do it, you get this advice, it's just not applicable. And if you were to do it, you fail very fast, right?
What do you mean it's not applicable?
Well, it's not applicable because if you try it, it'll be denied instantly.
Like if you were like a normal guy working at fucking Walgreens, and you go to your wife and you're like, listen, woman, you're gonna obey me. She'll be like, nope, I'm out of here. See, I'm moving up to the Best Buy manager guy. Fuck you, Mr. Walgreens, and you're done.
Yeah, so it's like to me the analogy I kind of built in my head when I guys were talking about this. It's kind of like this like international chess grandmaster talking about very super hardcore pawn pushing in late game, right? To actual fucking noobs on how what the pieces do. You know?
Oh, you want to know what it's super comparable towards? I'm going to talk shit about an area that I know nothing about, and I'm going to get a bunch of truths in chat because I know I'm right, okay? It's people that go on Reddit and give advice for how to big dick in a job interview, where they're like, this company wants you, like, you need to act like this and that, and they'll come crawling to you. No offense, but if you've got to read some shit like that online, that shit ain't ever going to work for you. The people that are big dicking it in job interviews are the people that legitimately have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 job offers, okay? If you're getting offered like fucking starting position, 250,000 TC from fucking Amazon, you know you're big dicking. You know you can go in other places. But if you're some guy that applied for some like fucking data center in Kansas City with a starting wage of 45,000 a year, you're not going to walk in there and start making fucking demands. Like you know that you have to play your cards, right? Same thing with like the Andrew Tate people. Like, you can't like big dick to women and talk about like, oh, you can do this and that if you're not in a position to kind of like already be doing it, kind of. Did that make sense, or did I go too far?
I understood what you said. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. And the reason why I don't is that I feel like my trajectory in life was somewhat like that. I remember when I first so this is completely anecdotal from my own experience, but I remember going from my struggle phase where like I was invisible and it was a struggle all the time to getting to the point where I was very proficient in that regards. And I don't like talking about it generally because everyone's like, oh, here we go, whatever, starting bragging. But if I'm being like just objective about it, there was a huge transition for me. I was able to see a lot of improvement. And I think that for a lot of dudes who do follow some of this stuff, they also see a lot of improvement with women. They are also able to start dating and get results. So do I believe that people can go from fucking, I don't know anything about ladies to improving drastically to the point where they're living some portion of that lifestyle? Yes, I do believe that. I don't think it's as far-fetched as you're making it out to be. And I will also say that if that's your message, you're always going to lose to someone like Andrew Tate because he's actually offering them a path forward.
Well, wait, hold on, wait. That's not my message. I'm attacking his message, right? Like, if I'm telling people like how to improve or how to put themselves in these situations, like I'm gonna have positive advice, but I'm attacking his perception right now. So of course I'm not gonna say like there's no way to do it or you're always gonna lose, you're always gonna be fucked or whatever. But my approach to it or my route going there is never gonna be like the ultra fucking red pill route, because if you're the kind of person that can do that, you're probably not watching these videos online anyway. You're already in a position where you can do that and be okay. Like, Jesus, like, look how many fucking, like, bro, you don't even have to try. You just rape women if you're like a fucking musician or if you're some fucking movie person or whatever. Like, that's what these guys all do anyway. Like, these guys aren't going into fucking red pill advice forums. Like, these people are already doing like the craziest, wildest fucking shit and getting away with it anyway. Not that you should do that, to be fair.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, I kind of got lost in that last example.
Yeah.
Why were you talking about super famous people who are raping people?
I'm saying that like the type of advice that Andrew Tate is trying to get the average person to apply to their life is going to be the type of thing that like people watching him aren't going to be able to apply to their life because they don't have the ability to big dick it, right? Like comparable to the job interview stuff. If you're just like a random dude with no experience and you're going to a job interview, you can't big dick it because nobody like, no offense, but like there's not going to be a lot of competition for your labor, right? You're not that big of a deal.
But they're saying you can big dick it. You can't. Oh, I can't even say this phrase. You can big dick it. Oh, I'm not going to repeat that shit. Okay, but you can do it up. All right.
Do it up. Do it up is better than big dicking it. Okay, go ahead.
It's not. It's just,
okay,
I'm not going to
do it up.
Okay,
okay.
You go. Okay,
no, that's
whatever.
Okay. Go ahead. You do it up.
You can accomplish the task.
Okay, gotcha.
Prescriptively, I can't even say the word prescriptive.
You're good.
I can't say it.
That's all good. Right.
You can accomplish that provided you lay down the foundation, which is you work on self-improvement. So they'll talk about working out. They'll talk about getting your finances in order. They'll talk about having a good job, a good place to stay. They'll tell you to lay down all that stuff so that you have the sense of confidence that you need in order to go up to women and big dick it, as you say. So
sure.
So I get what you're saying. I think you make it sound like it's far-fetched, but it's not nearly as much because most of the dudes who are struggling aren't even accomplishing the basic tasks of having their own place, having their money in order.
True. This is why as much as people joke about it, this is why like Jordan Peterson was so valuable, because a lot of people literally did need to be told to like, dude, clean your fucking room, like get your shit in order. Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
yeah, of course.
And it's small things like that, but it makes such a large difference in your life. Not only in regards to how women perceive you, but how you perceive yourself. Like there is a good thing that you have when someone's constantly telling you go to the gym, work out. That physical fitness will help you, and you get that dopamine response when you do go to the gym and you do exercise, and you start to feel better about yourself. You're like, damn, the advice this guy's giving me is helping me out. And when they're telling me how to start talking to women, I get my first response from women that's positive. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna keep listening to these dudes. So I do believe that provided you spend enough time doing this, that you can get really far with this stuff. And it's not nearly as far-fetched as needing to be some artist who's out here raping people or whatever it is that you're saying before.
Damn, you don't need to rape anybody, man. Chill.
Yeah, I don't think it's as far-fetched. So I know you guys are saying like people who want to accomplish this stuff are not going to listen to him. But to me, I don't believe that. I think if you do listen to big portions of it, it is efficient. It is effective. Think about what they're telling you to do. Work on your stuff, get your money together, make sure that you're well dressed, make sure that you're learning how to talk to women by constantly going up to them. Not even to say, I want your number, but just getting used to talking to women. Like a lot of their advice is 100% not only practical, but efficient in that. Yeah, like I remember one thing that I learned early on, okay, and this is me like watching pickup artist stuff, and this was really like a big changing point for me that kind of got rid of a lot of my anxiety when it comes to talking to women. I remember one of the things they say is like, just go up to start talking to random women, but don't even ask them for anything or want anything. Just try to have a normal conversation, even if it's so much as to say whether she's attractive, ugly, old, didn't matter. Obviously, no one underage. That was one of the pieces. But.
Holy.
Just go up and talk to them, and then leave and walk away afterwards, and just get used to getting rid of that anxiety you feel Because the big problem a lot of dudes have is once they start talking to a woman, they already have an endpoint that they have in mind. So they forget to be present and to just have a conversation with people. Now, when I hear advice like that, I've only heard it from people who do this red pill dudes.
Yeah.
And it is good advice. It is extremely good advice to just get used to talking to the opposite sex and treating them like they're humans. Okay? I've never heard anybody talk like that before. And so, do I believe a lot of this stuff works? Yeah, I do. And I do think it will lead a lot of people to those end results if they apply themselves well enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. Well, there's a lot of basics. I would have to see the Andrew Tate stuff for what he talks about beyond that. But in terms of like basic self-improvement stuff, yeah, most of it is like not disagreeable.
Dude, I don't know. I feel like I did not watch any of his, most of this. I don't know how much you guys have experience with his stuff or whatever, but it seemed like it's like some very like top heavy, like stuff that doesn't apply to your daily commoner. But maybe I'm wrong. It is that, or it's pushing that. But efficacy of some of this shit lowers as your leverage goes lower, right? If you don't look good, if you're not like muscle and shit or money or anything, or you have no leverage, some of these techniques just don't work.
I think what Abba is saying is, and this is probably true, we're probably only seeing, if you don't follow them regularly, we only see like the most extreme shit, right? So it might be the case that, and I don't know if this is true, so nobody quote me on this because he might be just a total piece of shit, but it might be the case that like Andrew Tate's content, it might be like 90% just like basic self-help improvement shit. That might be 90% of his content, but nobody's gonna post a video on Reddit and have it blow up of Andrew Tate saying like, hey, make sure that you apply yourself in school so you can get a good job or something, if he says that. But like the 10% of like, if you're a high value man, this is how you can juggle 3 women at once. Those are the clips that are gonna get a ton of hits. And that might be like what people think like, oh, he only talks to poor dudes. Like that might be the case, It's hard to say, but it could be the case. It's not hard to say, I just don't know because I don't watch his show, but.
Yeah, I think even though that advice may seem elementary to a lot of people, it's very different when it comes from somebody you admire, or somebody you look up to, or someone you respect.
Yeah, of course.
And also somebody who wants to speak to you empathetically or pretends to understand, or maybe really does understand where you're coming from. It's different. When I would hear that advice from people I respected or people that like lived a life I wanted to live, I'm like, okay, all right, I will listen more intently. I will follow through because I believe I may live a life similar to yours if I follow that advice. So it's not just who's saying it, it's how they're saying it and to whom they're actually trying to say it to. And I think young men especially feel ignored. They don't feel identified with most media platforms. And so when they hear this come from him, it's especially effective. If I hear some feminist woman just telling me like, well, the
men are evil and rapists and you guys need to treat women better and blah, 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 yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to listen to her for anything else she says because I already feel like she doesn't have my best interest at heart to start. And also, if we're being honest, a lot of women have given some really fucking shitty dating advice that doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. And so it's like, oh, why would I ever listen to you? You don't have my best interest at heart. And you give a lot of shitty advice. So like, why am I going to listen to it? I've listened to so many female dating coaches try to coach men on stuff. And I cringe so much because I can tell they don't understand what it's like to be a man and to approach a woman because they don't understand the tension that's created immediately and how the man receives that emotionally. Meaning, I was talking to a lesbian once and she was telling me like, oh yeah, approaching women is so easy. I was like, yeah, because you're a woman. You get me? Like immediately their defenses are down. They don't see you as a threat because you can go up to them in a club and they're not like, oh, this girl's trying to fuck me or this. So right, like you don't understand that experience. So people say, well, oh, this is general advice. I hear it all the time. Well, who are you hearing it from? Who's telling you? If it's women, a lot of dudes are not going to listen because they're like, what do you understand about the male experience? In that same token, a lot of women wouldn't listen to dudes about a lot of this stuff because they're like, you don't know what it's like to be a woman or to walk through life as a woman.
Yeah.
All right. But anyways, I didn't want to keep you guys because I know you guys were having your own conversation, but it was...
we were done a long time ago.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, it was a pleasure chatting. I just wanted to follow up on some of this stuff, but yeah, man, you guys have yourselves a good night.
Okay, man.
Yeah, have fun, buddy. Be careful.
Whoa, thanks for hanging out, man.
So, cheers.